Oh, yeah, I'm back. You guys thought you were going to get to do this again without me and my stupidity, but you're wrong. And what's most important this episode, you guys, we finally get to find out what happened to one of the most integral, important, and pivotal characters in the entire Star Wars universe, Orn Free Taa. Bailey, Brandon, let's get into this. Hey guys, how are you doing? Good to see you guys. It's good to see everybody in chat. We got a bunch of people here. Some people are watching the new Black Widow movie, but for those of you here, it's good to see you. I am back, and I am back in charge, and we're going to do this my way. I'm just kidding, you guys. I wanted to take a quick moment for everybody who was here last time to commend Brandon, who I think got a little bit of an idea of just all the cool stuff I'm doing in the background here and how hard I work on this stream because he had to do it himself. Just let me have that, Brandon. Just let me have it, okay? Okay, thank you. Don't tell anybody I'm just running a scam here. But you guys did an excellent job. I watched it on the rewind when I got back from Idaho, and I love the way the conversation took some different forks and some of the things that you guys talked about, and you got some in-depth conversation on a couple of things. I was very impressed. So thank you very much, Brandon, for hosting last week. Bailey, thank you for watching the house and taking care of my baby back there, even though he was yelling at you from the other side of the door. So I really appreciated it. So, and I'm very impressed, Bailey. All of the helmets are in the exact same place I left them. I thought you would be on camera dancing around in different helmets every 5 minutes, but
it's as I said last week. I don't want to get near them. I don't want anything to happen to them. So I look at them from afar.
Well, I appreciate that. So, but with that, we'll start off with Brandon. Brandon, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. Yeah, it was really exciting. I woke up to an episode of The Bad Batch, so that was awesome.
There you go. Bailey, we talked about this beforehand, but other than the Arizona death heat, how are you doing, ma'am?
Doing all right. Just living the dream in this Tatooine.
Oh, man, tell me about it. Brandon, just so you know, we actually have a storm possibly moving in. So if Bailey or I or both of us suddenly disappear, that's because the power got knocked out or the internet got knocked out. We'll try to come right back. So I'm trying not to leave you as a one-man show, but we might get lucky and actually get a monsoon tonight. We'll see. So
it's a 9% chance.
It's 12% at 7, Bailey. Let's head up to the comments here really fast and say some highs before we get started. There's Chris. Sorry, 2 a.m. came early this morning. Wow. He's got to be up at 2 a.m. again tomorrow, so I have to catch us in the rewatch. Chris, you know we love you, brother. You're always here. It's not a big deal. Hello, Bailey, Paul, and Brandon. Stopping to say hi. Haven't seen The Bad Batch, and we're watching Black Widow. Hope the stream goes well. Thanks, J Squared. And then look at this. Here's a theme. G-Force is watching Black Widow as well. So, John.
Hey, John.
Good to see you. Hey. There's David. I don't know if I'll be able to catch a stream. There are a bunch of people here playing cards and partying. David, can I just drop this in Brandon's lap and come to your house? I want to go there. So, but if I miss it, hello to everyone. He says that this last episode of Bad Batch may have been the best so far. I think we might get a little bit of a debate on that one, but it definitely wasn't bad. Let's see where we're at here. Oh, left coast. Damn, Paul's back in the hills. That's right. Things are going to get back on track. We're going to do this right. I'm just kidding. You guys did an excellent job last time. Oh, yeah. Great job last week, Brandon, Billy. Seriously. You guys did a good job. Thanks, G-Force. I appreciate that, man. These guys are the crew, though. I'm just the idiot down here mashing buttons no matter what Brandon says, although that was very kind of you to pretend like you felt like I was doing a good job, Brandon. So look at this. Ultimate Miles Morales Spidey fan. Yeah, no, we're not. Yeah. Last thing I need to do is start buying dark sabers and lightsabers. Anybody? Yeah. Bailey, if I buy those, we're going to have to display them at your house because my wife can't find out.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
We'll put them in the background for you there so Sarah doesn't find out.
Yeah. The one wall in my house that doesn't have Star Wars stuff on it. Yes.
Exactly. Get you covered, girl. Get you covered. Linda Borum, always good to see you, ma'am. Appreciate it. And
Linda.
She always knows who to start with first, though. Just kidding. Oh, check it out. It's Bailey Readable and Brand Delicious and Paul Test. Oh, where's Gilster when you need it? We need some PB and Ewok. There's Mike in Houston. Hi, everyone. There's JT. Hi, Bailey, Brandon, and Paul. Welcome back. Thank you. Yeah, see? Yeah. if Bailey and I come back as undead, you'll know what's going on. So, and then this will be the last one. Then we'll get started. I'm in the best episode camp. Best episode since the first movie episode. Love this one so much. So that's an interesting take, you guys, because this is episode 11, Devil's Deal. I was pretty sure when I saw the title of the episode, as I think you two probably were as well, where we were going with this one. And they didn't shock me on that because, as we all know, who the devil is in these movies. But we start off on a pretty familiar planet in a familiar set of surroundings. And this episode, spoiler alert, is one of the ones that doesn't actually have the Bad Batch on their own TV show. So, but with that, yeah, I love it. But Brandon, with that, I'd like to go ahead and start off with you, sir. We got this at the beginning. Tell us your overall thoughts and get us started into this episode, sir.
So this is Ryloth. This is the home planet of Hera and the Syndulas and a whole bunch of the other Twi'leks. We see this planet pop up a lot in the Clone Wars and Rebels. And I was really excited because it ties into a book that I love, and that's the Star Wars, the Lords of the Sith. And the first couple chapters of that, it is like boom right into Resistance on Ryloth. So it fits almost in the same exact time period. So that I was really excited. I did not expect this from this episode at all. I didn't watch, like any of the trailers. I didn't look at, anything online, and I was really excited because I love Rebels. So we got to see some really familiar characters right away, and more of the occupation stuff from the Empire. Mm-hmm. So those you see the foundries or the refineries, I guess, and the Empire is moving in and using planets for the resources, and we're starting to see the resistance that we see in Rebels from the Twi'leks.
Agree. Bailey, what did you think of this? And if you disagree with me, let me know. What did you think of this basically being a prequel to Rebels? And did you like that we went back to some of these old locations from those two shows, the Clone Wars and Rebels?
I know I've said this many times throughout the run of this show, and I'll say it again, but I'm telling you, I really enjoy the stuff that has very little to do with the Bad Batch themselves. Because this stuff, because this was an episode where it was like, this is exactly what I want to see. Is I want to see different people and different planets responding to the rise of the Empire, and seeing characters that we'll see later down the road react to that. So I enjoyed this one just because that's the stuff I want to see. And so yeah, I don't have a problem with any of that, like seeing like a prequel to Rebels or checking in with characters we'll see later down the line. I think it's great. Especially when we're talking about Rebels, because, Hera and Kanan, they were children when the Empire first came to be, and they ended up becoming rebels later down the road. So it is nice to see that for sure. So I don't have a problem with any of that. I'm sorry, guys, but it's like the Bad Batch just themselves don't do it for me. It's the stuff that's happening around them, and this episode accomplished that.
So really quick, Brandon, just get it out of your system, bro. What do you got there?
It's a Vanessa Marshall signed Hera print that I won, and it is, not even joking, I got emotional several times during this episode, and I was like, yeah, he did it.
That's my boy right there. He's over there stroking. You know what I got? I had to put you up single screen so you could show us your baby, big dog. That's a nice piece of memorabilia, though. I'm a little jealous you have that. So good for you. Really quick, there's Darth Muzza. Yeah, really like this week's up. Yeah. So we get the establishing shot, as they say in the biz, because I'm kind of a movie guy now on YouTube. Just let me have that one too. We get the establishing shot of I can't remember the name of the planet like an idiot. Ryloth. Okay. And then we start off with them addressing all the Twi'leks out there. And obviously, the more I watch this show, the more I'm seeing parallels to what's currently going on in politics in the United States, whether you're on the left or the right. It doesn't really matter. I'm seeing a lot of parallels there. And I think this might be a coincidence because theoretically they planned this a while ago. But regardless, we get this right here. Baylor, we're going to go right back to you. First of all, can you tell me who these three characters are up at front? Because I'm going to have Brandon follow up on that guy and kind of explain what's going on here.
Yeah, so to our left here, left center, we have Cham Syndulla, which is Hera's father. And he worked closely with Mace Windu in the Clone Wars when they first liberated Ryloth. And he shows up later in Rebels with Hera for a couple episodes. Right next to him, to his right, we have a new clone, I think, named Hauser. And he was kind of the star of the show for me because he was a clone that acted like a clone before all of this happened. So that's him. And then to the far right, we have Senator Todd, right? Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we have Senator Todd right there. That's who Paul is hovering over, and he represents Ryloth in the now Imperial Senate. And then lastly, we have Hera's mother, who we've never met before. Because by the time in Rebels, it is alluded that she has passed. So this is the first time we've seen her.
Okay. Really quick, David, no problem, brother. We'll see you. And what did I see here? I thought I saw a new name. I might be crazy. David, Linda, David. Anyway, yeah. So, Brandon, really explain the significance of this big heavy dude. We've seen him other places, have we not?
A lot, yeah. He's the senator for Ryloth in the Galactic Republic, but in the Republic or Galactic Empire, but the Republic before. And he is seen, yes, with Palpatine a lot, and he was very heavy against the.
No pun intended. Sorry. he was very heavy against. Go, Brandon. Sorry.
Yeah. And he was kind of one of Palpatine's puppets with it because he was very against the Separatists coming in and getting resources. So he we'll talk about it later, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's basically using his position to line his own pockets, and he's kind of a corrupt guy. Is that kind of fair way to put it, Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay. Bailey, was that your assessment of that guy too? Because he's obviously been in the movies. He was in Clone Wars, was he not too, Bailey?
Oh yeah, he was, and he was never. He definitely was not a Bail Organa or a Padme Amidala by any chance. And right off the bat, he's kind of putting Hera's parents under the bus. Like, yeah, they're not going to listen to you, and so he's not. He doesn't have the best intentions. Unlike last week episode where we saw a senator care very much about his people. This guy, he's just. I don't know. He's a follower. Whoever has the more power and money, that's who he's going to listen to.
Perfect. You know what? And that was a good, thank you for that compare and contrast. Because last episode, you were right. I did watch that one when I got back. Even though that guy was part of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, which were ostensibly the bad guys in the movies, he literally had that moral conundrum going on about, I got to stay with my people. Meanwhile, we get Fat and Blue here, who's just like, yeah, money and power for me. He was heavy into that. Right, Brandon? Okay, so Brandon, we're going to go back to you. I need you to clear something up for me.
Yeah.
In the titles, what do you call them? The subtitles, and in the dialogue, they're calling this blue clone Hauser.
Yeah.
So I thought, you remember that 4-pack that came out? I was talking about a couple of episodes ago. So I was like, oh, there he is. But I went back and looked when I got the picture. They're calling him Ballast on this card. What the heck is going on here? Really quick for us collectors.
I was really confused too because I knew from the promotional images that we saw that this would be Ballast. So when I saw that armor, I was like, "Oh, cool, there he is." And then someone calls him Hauser, and I had the subtitles on, and I was just like, "Okay, that I guess he's Hauser." And then I was really wondering about it, and I seen a couple things that say that it basically they changed the name from the promotion stuff before this episode was released. So it was Ballast, but if you were to look up Clone Trooper Ballast or Clone Captain Ballast, it pops you to the Hauser Wikipedia page.
So this is the same guy. They just did the old swoopy swoop switch on us, so we didn't spoil anything.
It seems like it.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes that, a lot more sense to me because I was like, oh, there's the guy. I mean, and really quick for those who may not know what I was talking about because a lot of us didn't get it. This is that, whoops, there we go. This is that 4-pack that came out that was an Amazon exclusive and was gone in like 3 minutes. And there's my boy right there in that pack. So theoretically, they're going to come out with more of those, I hear, too. But I appreciate you clearing that up, Brandon. JT has a question. I'll let either one of you go with this. Why is Senator Todd got 3 fingers on each hand when the other Twi'leks have 4? Anybody know?
He's a different subspecies of Twi'lek. I'll 1 second. It's not important, but it'll bother me.
Well, that's why we have JT here and people to ask questions. Bailey, have you even ever noticed that before?
No. It makes sense that, in the galaxy far, far away with all these species that we would see variants, but no, I have not. I will be sure to look at that next time.
Darth Maul, he ate them. Probably. Brandon, what you got for us?
Yeah, I'm not sure why, because it says he's a male Rutian Twi'lek, but I click on Rutian, and that's basically just saying he's blue like Aayla Secura. So,
okay. All right. So that makes the most sense though, because just like there's a bunch of different colored Twi'leks, maybe some of them only have 3 fingers. That's the best answer that I think I could come up with for sure. So anyway, we see the beginning. And it's kind of funny when you talk about Cham Syndulla because apparently later on he ends up being one of the biggest, rebel people in Rebels and things like that. But he calms his people. He says, I trust the clones, and I think we should accept this empire or this imperial occupation for now. And you can see the guy really trying. And he talks his people down below into trusting the empire for now. Now, the next scene we get here, Bailey, I'd like for you to speak on this one, if you don't mind. We see someone who I'm sure everybody knows. Who are these people, Bailey?
We have a young Hera Syndulla and Chopper, and they're part of the Ghost crew and Star Wars Rebels. Hera is essentially the pilot for the crew, and Chopper is essentially a more nightmarish R2-D2. But yes, so and I think this was the highlight for a lot of people. So that, and it just, she's, I don't know her exact age, but she would be essentially the same age as Kanan at that time. So yeah, and she speaks in a French accent this time around. I think that's like a Twi'lek thing too, like the French accent. But it seems like the women speak. I don't know. But anyway, she speaks in an accent. It's a young Hera Syndulla. Nice.
So, Brandon, I deliberately held you off on this one. Tell me what you thought when you saw this and where you thought they went with this and how you liked it.
When it was on Ryloth, I figured we'd see Hera because just the way that it fits with that that book, The Lords of the Sith. I oh my goodness, I was so excited, and I didn't know that we would see her. Actually, I thought we'd get the reason, like Bailey said, this is the first time we've seen Hera's mom, and in Rebels we know that she's already passed, and so I figured we'd get part of that story. And when she said Hera's got other interests, I thought she'd be already off doing different things because she didn't agree with how her dad was doing stuff. So I didn't think we'd see Hera. So when we saw Hera and then I looked a little bit to the left and saw Chopper, I almost lost it. Like,
so I thought it was interesting to show what a dreamer she was at the beginning, because she's pretty practical in what I've seen of the Rebels. Admittedly, I haven't seen it all. This shot is from Rebels. There's two of you guys' favorite characters in the same shot. I thought you guys would get a kick out of that one because Bailey's huge Ahsoka fan, and well, Brandon, I think if she was around on Earth, you might track her down and ask her to marry you, Hera there. So, so let's talk about this really fast since it's come up a couple of times, and I think I know the answer to this. But Brandon, we'll go back to you on this. Everybody on Ryloth is speaking with a French German accent, especially Hera. She's got a huge French accent. When we get to Rebels, and you guys probably know this, I just learned it today. We get to Rebels, she's speaking in an English accent. What's going on there, Brandon?
I mean, it's like anything where if we were to move somewhere, we'd start picking up on the dialect and some things of the people surrounding us. But it also has to do with her not wanting to be in Rebels. She even admits that she didn't want that part of Ryloth with her, so she learned to not speak like that. So it very much is, and then when she talks to her dad in Rebels, it sneaks in a little bit, so that I think they did a really good job of that, and I expected to, when I saw her, I was like, is she gonna speak like she would, and then versus how we heard in Rebels. But yeah, just like anything where if you have somebody who has moved from one part of the world to another and has lived there for, thinking about the timeline with Rebels, depending on when she leaves Ryloth, over half her life, she hasn't been around that. So she's, changing the way that she speaks.
Bailey, what did you think of the way they did that? Did that bother you, or you think that showed like a character arc for her?
No, I think it's great. And honestly, world building is something I really appreciate in Star Wars, seeing how different aliens and even humans, they come from these different places with different accents. And I think it's wonderful. So no, it makes perfect sense why, as a child, she would speak in an accent, and then, later down the road, if she's not around it. And it also could be, being on the run on the Empire, you don't want to sound like, what people are, if people know that, hey, she's going to speak in an accent, she's going to cover that up probably. So no, I think it's great. And it just makes Star Wars feel real, in a way, to have all these different cultures and whatnot. So no, I think it's fantastic.
Perfect. And to set up what John said here, I think he agrees with you. The accent is kind of a status thing on Ryloth. If you have that accent, because if you listen to the characters on Ryloth, because I'm a huge languages guy, there's pure French, and then there's French Germanic and French Spanish, depending on which character it is. And that's the weird, silly stuff I pick up. But the pure French speakers are all the high level people. So what John is saying here actually makes sense to me. So, well, that's good. I thought that was a pretty interesting way to introduce her. And as we'll get further and further down the road here, this episode just basically ends up being a precursor to Rebels, basically, and how she went off and did what she did. Anyway, unfortunately, when we see her, she is spying on the new Dunium facility, and Dunium is the metal that they make the ships out of. And I love the perspective, because the stormtroopers walk up and she's looking up and they're, hey, how's it going? So she gets brought back. Brandon, we're going to head over to you now. And this is, I'm gonna call him Hauser, since that's the name of the character, not Ballast. So Hauser is leading the detachment that brings her back to her dad, Champ. Tell us what's going on here and what you picked up about Hauser's behavior and what you thought of that.
Well, I mean, basically what they're having is the people of Ryloth are essentially having to turn in their weapons because they don't want any sort of uprising. The Empire doesn't trust them, and Cham's brother is a known freedom fighter. He's a known guerrilla war type person, and they're expecting them to turn in the weapons to basically show that they're not going to put up a resistance to this new refinery that is being put in. So you've got all these Twi'leks coming in, and they're giving up their weapons, and Hauser shows up with Hera, and he's like, hey, this looks really bad, she is spying on the facility. And they're like, why is it a big deal? And Hera's mom even said to her, what if it's spying, what don't you want us to see, basically? Mm-hmm. So you've got Cham, you've got Hauser who trusts Cham, and they seem to be in, a pretty close relationship where he's like, hey, like this can't happen again. Like it looks bad for you. It looks bad for me. Like I should be reporting this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I like the way that they had the tensions going on with this episode.
Exactly. And Bailey, you mentioned earlier when we started off that you were happy to see a clone acting like a clone. Hauser's clearly a sophisticated guy with a lot going on in there. What did you mean by that? And what's going on with this guy?
I mean, like, he doesn't seem impacted by these inhibitor chips that, we've spent a lot of time seeing and discussing. He seems like he still has his own unique personality intact. So that does raise a couple questions as to how exactly these chips work, why he seems to be a clone that acted like a clone before Order 66. But to me, it was just, that was so refreshing to see, after, seeing these clones not acting like themselves. They're essentially puppets of the Empire now, and, how the Bad Batch views other clones. It was just really nice to see, like, a character that acted like the clones that we fell in love with in the Clone Wars. So that it is interesting that he seems to be himself. So I'm not sure, like, what that means in terms of the chip. Like, did it not go off for him because there was no Jedi around when it happened, or, I don't know. It does raise questions as to why he is why he's still himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, he still has his own unique personality intact.
Yeah, I was shocked is kind of a strong word, but I found it to be very interesting that there seemed to be differing levels of morality and or how this chip affects them, because it seems like the regular troopers, especially the ones that have done some heinous things that we have seen so far, seem to be very affected by them. Whereas this guy is having like a moral conundrum, even though he clearly got Order 66. So I'll be interested to see if they touch more on that or if they just did this to add a bit of depth to the episode, but that'll be interesting to see. And Brandon, let's go over to you. I wanted to touch on this really fast, and then we'll get into the canyon scenes. They're desperately trying to fit Rampart in some fashion, and you had talked earlier about as collectors, you have a Rampart figure, or at least there's one coming. What do you think of how they're using him thus far, and what's going on with this?
It is like they're just kind of placing him wherever any Imperial officer could be, and at this point, I'm surprised that they didn't have him also be the Imperial officer on the Raxus from the last episode. He kind of seems like he goes anywhere where there's a big issue, and it's almost like he's a less intense version of Tarkin, because in Rebels, Tarkin kind of pops around with where the rebel cells are, and he is there with the elite squad because they are worried about Cham's brother, and I forgot to write his name down and I can never remember it, but I think it starts with a B. But I thought that we were going to see Crosshair assassinate someone this episode with that, because I mean he was pretty much targeted in on him, saying like, we've got him all locked down kind of stuff. So I think at this point Rampart and the elite squad are going to go places that they are worried about any sort of uprising against the Empire, and I think that's how we're going to see him used for the show.
I think, that makes sense. They throw Tarkin in there for us old guys, or people who enjoy the original trilogy, I shouldn't just say old guys, to give us that, ooh, cool effect. And then they slide this Rampart guy in because if they needed to, they could kill him off and it wouldn't matter, because we never see him again in the rest of the Clone Wars or anything. I mean, the rest of the Rebels or anything. Am I right? This is the first time we've seen Rampart, right, guys?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So at this point, not Ballast, Hauser has covered for Hera and given her back to her dad and said, look, with this crap, she's going to get me in trouble. She's going to get us all in trouble. And Cham is doing his best to keep peace because, as they've talked about a lot of times in this episode, that the Twi'leks are just tired of fighting, and he's hoping for some peace. But his brother, Hera's uncle, isn't quite as convinced. So he decides he's going to pick up Hera, and they're going to head off on a mission. And she initially says she doesn't want to go, and she tries to behave. And he goes, "I'll let you fly." And here she comes, right? So, Bailey, let's go over to you, ma'am. The Bad Batch finally make an appearance in their own TV show. What do we got going on here?
Basically, this was just a supply run. So Hera's uncle, which I believe his name was Gobi, like Gobi. I want to say his name. That was his name.
That sounds familiar.
And they're picking up basically thermal detonators and like just weapons because, as Brandon mentioned earlier, the Twi'leks were asked to put their weapons away, and he's like, "Nuh-uh, like the Empire's got something up its sleeve. We need to defend ourselves, build our own arsenal," and that's essentially what's going on here. What's interesting, though, and this is another big question I have, is the Bad Batch are there on behalf of Sid. Like, this was another job from Sid, and we talked quite a bit about this in last week's stream, where it's like, what are they still doing with Sid? I thought like their debt was paid, and yet they seem to be doing another errand for her. But so they're there on her orders. They give them the weapons, and that was like essentially it. Hera kind of has a moment with Omega where she's showing her around the ship, and Hera's saying like, she wants to fly, yada yada, and that was it. But during all of this, Crosshair, put a tracker on the Syndulla ship. So the Empire is very aware of what's going on. So nothing happens at that point in time, but that's pretty much all it was, is Hera's uncle wants to arm Ryloth because they think, the Empire's got something to hide and we should be ready. And that was pretty much it. And that was the last we saw of the Bad Batch. So yeah, my biggest question from that is, why are they still working for Sid? Because I thought we were done with that. And I even said in the last stream, I hope now that their debt is paid, they wouldn't be working for Sid anymore. They'd be doing their own thing. But we'll see what happens.
Really quick before I go over to you, Brandon, I wanted to mention something that ties into last episode, and I think there's a reason why Sid is around. You guys didn't talk about this. I'm sure you caught it. So they initially went to Sid because Sid was a Jedi connection. Remember, the Jedi trusted her, and so that was where they needed to go to start their life on the run. Did you happen to notice that the CIS senator also, the minute he got in trouble, immediately contacted Sid? So what I got from that is Sid was playing both sides in the war, as you might imagine someone in this position. Mm-hmm. And I think Sid is going to be the key to the end of this show. Like, she's going to do something that gets them all killed, captured, or scatters them to the war because it's going to be money. And that's what I think. So she's playing both sides. So I think they have to keep her around for that plot device. My prediction, I just want to get that in there fast.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned that, the parts that I kind of did enjoy about The Last Jedi, when they were talking about the arms dealers and the weapons manufacturers and stuff like that, they're the ones getting rich from it, and they're playing both sides. So that's a very good point. And I guess I didn't necessarily catch that with that.
At the end of the day, it's all about what we call down here dinero. You guys, I want to, Brandon, you know what? We'll do this in a second. But Brandon, I want to get back to you. Overall, Bailey put it succinctly. This was a pretty quick in and out for the Bad Batch. We'll talk about the Hera Syndulla thing in a second here. What did you think of the Bad Batch literally being a cameo in their own TV show this episode?
I've kind of battled with that because it's like I've been wanting to see more of the Bad Batch, and then when I saw what this episode was doing, it was like I honestly don't give a crap if I see that. Because I was like, this is the best episode of this show, and I was like, but this feels more like a Rebels prequel or something like that. And it that doesn't make it a bad episode at all. It just doesn't. And I'm guessing this next episode that will heavily involve the Bad Batch now. That right. they'll be worked into it, folded into it. but I know I saw people online just crying about it, saying like, this isn't even the Bad Batch. It's not their show. Like they basically hand the keys over to Hera, and I didn't mind it at all. It was
perfect.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. It'll be more, please. Yeah. So I will tell you, the way I reconcile this in my head is technically Crosshair is still part of the Bad Batch, I guess, and we saw him a bunch. So Bad Batch, I guess. I don't know. I wanted to talk about what's been going on in the comments here, because this, we seem to have gone over this a couple of times. We talked about the moral conundrum that Ballast / Hauser is having, and David's like, hey, so far he's a good dude, I like him, and he's been one of the most likable clones we've gotten that still has the chips in since this happened. Now John says there was no Jedi there, so he will act as a normal clone. File that away for a second, especially Brandon, because you and I worked that episode together. And then there's David. Yeah, that's what I figured, no Jedi to snap him into Order 66, and there's some other stuff like that. Brandon, we had this conversation. Do you agree with them saying no Jedi, no orders, no craziness? What's going on?
Not necessarily, because when Wrecker snaps, he's basically like, you're traitors, and it was kind of like you had contact with a Jedi, therefore guilty by association. But I mean, it's still, they're looking for traitors in any shape. Like they, like the Order 66, now that they've explained it a little bit more with these clones, it is very much not just a Jedi thing. It's a traitors to the Empire thing. So, I mean, if the thing that surprised me is if, Hera was in a restricted zone, I believe that they would have gone after her.
And that's what I'm thinking as well. And I get it. John's like, so the clone is used a way to show the audience that they changed from here. And I get that. But Bailey, do you agree with the fact that it doesn't take Jedi now for them to go off?
No, and that's what makes the whole thing confusing, because I seriously doubt every single clone that's like part of the Empire now has even come in contact with the Jedi. Even like the ones on Camino, it just seems like whether they've been in contact with a Jedi or not, there was like this literal switch in their brain that they are not themselves. They're not individual people anymore. They're servants to the Empire now. So that's what's puzzling to me, is I really wish we got exact clarification or science on it, because it's like, it doesn't, as Brandon said, it doesn't seem to matter whether or not a Jedi is in front of you or not. They seem to be taking anything that's remotely traitorous, and they want to eliminate that. But then again, there's probably clones that have never even been in that position, and yet they're not acting like themselves anymore. So that's what I don't understand, is this whole chip thing is just getting more and more confusing. Episode. Like, it used to be so simple. Like, yep, they all have this chip, and when Order 66 happens, they are forever changed, yada, yada, yada. And then this show happened, and we're seeing all sorts of variations and no explanation on it. So, yeah, I don't think it seems like it doesn't seem to matter whether there's a Jedi nearby or not. It seems like some stay themselves and others don't. So I don't know. I
tell you, I learned a new term last year. The way I'm headcanoning this, my headcanon for this, Brandon, I learned that recently, is that it affects each of them in slightly different ways depending on their past experience and certain serotonin and brain chemical levels. Because that's the only way that the scientific explanation for why this guy seems to be hesitant. Whereas Crosshair, who was ostensibly a dick to begin with, is he's just assassinating people. I mean, there's too much of a difference here. So it's got to mess with their own body chemistry or something. That's the best I've got on that. So, but we'll move on. At this point, I agree with you guys. It doesn't take a Jedi to set those chips off. We've seen it. Why Hauser is like he is just everybody's guess, but it is cool to see that they're a little bit more sophisticated. Bailey, let's go right back to you, ma'am. Before they got to the arms deal, the Syndulas are flying a ship the likes of which I don't think I've ever seen before. Have we seen this in any episode of anything before?
Not that I'm aware of. And Brandon, feel free to jump in if I'm incorrect, but I don't think we've seen a ship that looks like this before. Maybe this is like a Twi'lek ship, because like Hera, like right off the bat, like when she saw what the Bad Batch are writing in, she's like, well, what ship is this? Like she's never seen anything like that before. So I'm not sure. I think this might be the first time where any of us are ever seeing this, if I'm correct, Brandon.
It didn't bring up anything to me, and it's been a while since I've rewatched the Ryloth stuff in both Rebels and the Clone Wars. So it didn't even, make a connection. But
it doesn't look, you know how a lot of the Star Wars ships, Brandon, especially as a collector, they kind of look like other ships, and you can see, especially from Republic to Empire and Rebellion, or Republic to Rebellion for that matter, there seems to be some sort of lineage. But this thing looks like it is brand new for Bad Batch, which I thought was kind of cool. Am I crazy there, Brandon?
Yeah, it is. It is different. It's kind of a cross between what we saw with like that open window, like that when we saw the Saw Gerrera, his people get killed when they went to fly that ship away. But I mean, you do some slight changing, and it looks kind of Slave One-esque. With the front of the ship like that. And that's the only thing that came to my mind, but I didn't recognize it. But
fair enough. I thought it was still really cool to get that. Hold on, my computer's doing weird stuff here because I accidentally went across the news. How do I get rid of that? There we go. Yeah. So when they updated Microsoft Windows, they put the weather down at the bottom. And if you just accidentally scroll your thing across it, it pops up. So they do the arms deal. And then while they're negotiating, Hera, who is fascinated with the Bad Batch's ship, asked permission to come aboard and take a look around. And she and Omega have some time together. Bailey, talk about what happened there and what you thought of how they did that.
I really enjoyed seeing Hera talk about, her desire to fly and to communicate with someone who's roughly her age. The one thing that that kind of had me scratching my head, and it just kind of reminded me of some of the dialogue in the prequels where I'm like, why would she say that? Is in the end where they part ways, and I think it was Hunter that's like, hey, do you like your new friend? And she's like, yeah, she's weird, but I like her. And I'm like, what has she done that's weird? Have a personality? Like, that was something that, I don't know. I guess if you have a personality, Bad Batch is coming for you or something. But like, that was the only thing where I was like, what? Like, Hera's literally going in, and she's like very enthusiastic about this ship, and she's very interested in Omega, and saying all this wisdom about flying, about how you chart your own course or whatever, only for Omega to go, what a weirdo, but I like her. That was the only thing where I was like, what in the, okay. But it was nice.
So in Omega's defense, she has been hanging around some of the least feeling in-depth emotionally care. I mean, you guys went into that for about an hour last episode, so no wonder she thinks
and I'll do it again.
No, you won't. Where's that button that gets rid of somebody in the stream, Brandon? Where do I find that? Brandon, what did you think of this? Because I'm going to have one or two sentences on my opinion when you guys are done. But how do you think this went and how they did this?
I loved it, and it was a very, very much. Hera is a very passionate person. Like, even from a young age, we can see that, and she's much more free and flowy than she was in Rebels. But that hope is still there, and she is basically like, what? Like, because Omega says before Tech will let her fly, she has to list all of the specifications from memory. And Hera's like, flying is a feeling. Yeah. And then Omega later, it's super cute. She's like, did you guys know flying is about a feeling?
Which I thought was awesome. I'm going to interject, Brandon, because this is the episode where I've finally come to terms with who Tech is. Tech is Tech, and he doesn't bother me anymore because he goes, what feeling? And I'm like, okay, that's just the guy this son of a gun is going to be. And I'm cool with it at this point. Bailey, are you mad at me because of that, or what do you think?
No. I don't really let Tech stay in my thoughts any longer than it needs to be. So no thoughts.
Okay, I just gave him like that's just going to be tech. Brandon, how about you, man? What did you think of his response to that?
Yeah, it was like, of course, that's the tech thing to say. It was very on brand for him.
Right.
On brand.
On brand. He's like, what feeling? And that's when somebody said it a few episodes ago. He's literally the Sheldon Cooper of the group and is just never going to give us anything more. And for some strange reason, that one little line, I was like, I'm cool with it now. I have become one with the fact he's a two-dimensional character, and I'll take it. I'm happy with it. So, so this is the point. Obviously, Bailey mentioned it earlier. Before they had left, they knew what was going on because it's the Empire. Come to find out later, spoiler alert, Rampart's a pretty smart guy and had a whole big thing going on in his head on what he wanted to have happen. But Crosshair shot him with a tracking device. So on their way back in, they warn the authorities and they get picked up. So they send out Hauser and his clones to arrest everybody that gets off of that Rylothian ship. And we see this again, Brandon. We see this again. Arrest everybody, including the kid. And Hauser's like, Thoughts?
I mean, yeah, it's very interesting. Like we said, it why do some clones have that, that moral compass, and the other ones are like, yeah, we're going to shoot the kid. And they're all like, yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Right.
But it's, these couple scenes, it was more of the Easter eggs and seeing some things from the past that caught my attention and not like, what was actually going on. But,
right, yeah.
But yeah,
Guilty.
it is very interesting to see how they deal with that, about how the different clone commanders and clone troopers, because it really is the clone commanders at this point that we see that act differently at all. We haven't seen a regular trooper, have any of those questions, basically.
Mm-hmm. So, Bailey, any final thoughts before I'm going to get off the topic of Hauser having emotions? Any last thoughts you have on that? Because he does it again. He's like, I don't want to arrest a little kid.
What I liked is it just reminded me a lot of how the clones were with children in the Clone Wars, or with their young Padawans. Like, Ahsoka was essentially a child and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
and they would be resistant to that. Like, if they're just a kid, or even when they were hunting Ahsoka down for what they thought a crime she committed, it was like they don't want to hurt her because she's a kid. So that's what that reminded me of, is like, yeah, he is very much acting like how they were before all this chip business started. So yeah, that's about it. It just reminded me a lot of how they were before.
Frankly, it was refreshing to see them not all act like robots, at least, the ones that still had chips in. So Brandon, you mentioned this, so we're going to go back to you. They arrest the Syndulla family. They put them in some transports and they head down the canyon. And the first thing we see.
Oh my goodness.
My brother.
The turbo tank from
everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One. Mm-hmm. And it absolutely, when I see things like that, that's what clicks in my brain. And I'm like, it's awesome to see the slight variations and the slight little changes. I don't know how many of the different pictures you pulled up of things, but I can
just this one.
Okay. Yeah. We also had the LAATs, which are the gunships.
Yeah.
They dropped down in one of those. We had blurgs from The Mandalorian, from Rebels, from the Clone Wars,
from the Ewok special,
from the stop motion blurgs in the Ewok movies. We had a land speeder that looked very similar to Luke Skywalker's that came in with more troopers. And then we had the predecessor of a speeder bike, which was the Bark. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it still looked like the ones from the Clone Wars, but that's the kind of stuff that I'm really, really liking, is the transition from the Empire, but they're still using this clone stuff until they get the new fancy toys.
Exactly. So to put all those in perspective, the Lats come down to offload the troops. They load them onto a turbo tank. The turbo tank is being escorted by the speeder bikes. the good guys, the Syndulla clan, are riding on blurgs and in a speeder. They end up putting Hera in and getting her out of there. But Bailey, let's go to you. I want to talk about sound design because, wow, the speeder bikes. Come on, man. What did you think of that?
Oh, I love it. Return of the Jedi is actually like my favorite of the original trilogy. So like just hearing that is like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought of, is that scene. So I really love that. And that's what I love about, seeing these new projects is I absolutely adore it when they do call back. It's just the littlest thing just to remind you of something we've seen before. No, it's wonderful. I think, love it.
Absolutely. Really quick, Josh, hey, Bailey, Brandon, and Paul stopping in to support you from work. Thank you all for being so awesome. He's changed his name here, but that's our Josh Anderson.
Yep.
That's who that is. So I just had to catch that because I recognize that. It's always good to have you, Josh. Thank you so much. Brandon, let's go back to you because I really got a kick out of this canyon chase scene and the audio effects and the callbacks to the vehicles. Tell me what you thought of how they did that.
Oh my God, it was amazing. And being someone who, played the video games and stuff like that and have always
Yeah.
I know I was
Bailey's
even kind of like doing like that.
Right. Yeah.
But no, the sound effects, I mean, when you think back on Star Wars, if you didn't have John Williams and you didn't have the sound effects, Star Wars is really a different thing. Like some of the most important moments and the most iconic moments, there are the visuals, but it's the sounds that really stick out. And that's what I think.
They immerse you in the experience.
Fair? Yep. And sometimes I even think that the sounds are what put it over the top with things. So yeah, I've always thought that the sound design on Star Wars is, one of its strong points.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I know I'm really spending too much time on this topic, but this canyon chase scene where the Syndulla clan and everybody are trying to attack the turbo tank and the biker scouts and everything like that just really made this episode for me because, man, I felt like I was in Star Wars again when that went on. You know what I mean? Every now and then, because just some of those sounds brought me back. But Bailey, let's go over to you. I love my troopers. Wait, this way. I love my troopers, right?
Yep.
Clones, stormtroopers, drivers. I mean, I have it all. But the hardest thing about being a lover of troopers is how incredibly inept Star Wars universe seems to. A bunch of people on blurgs and a speeder, which they didn't even use, just took over a turbo tank and some speeder bikes. Tell me what you thought of that canyon chase scene.
And
it sucks to be you, Paul.
I'm surprised, Okay. I think, it's. It was great, but it was pretty predictable that we know what's gonna happen. We know Hera's not gonna die, so we knew that intervention would come in, and so no, I was not at all surprised that it was like bam, 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 and that was the end of it.
Yeah, my brothers on the scout bikes were just, it was embarrassing. The tactics are hilarious. Oh my goodness. Really quick. Gilster, good to see you, man. I was worried you weren't going to stop by. And then there's a cool name, Mando Clips. Good to see you. Oh, I'm kind of special. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. And you know what, Gilster, you're never late, brother. Anytime you show up, it's good to go. And yes, someone had to do it. Oh, I feel you on that one. Brandon, let's get back to you. We talk about this. We've been talking about this for decades. I'm going to do the old guy thing. We've actually been talking about this for decades before you two were even born. What the stormtroopers and the clone troopers lately or throughout, what's going? Did that canyon chase bother you, or are you cool with the way they did it?
No, I mean, that's the way it's always been. I mean, people were like, well, why were the clones so badass in the prequels? And it's like, because they were going up against a droid army that were basically designed to be crap. So
did we win?
Yeah. Did we win the war? Yeah. And like, yes, I love the clones, and yes, I love a good stormtrooper. But I mean, in the scope of things, they always make the heroes and the villains the strong point. The rest are really just, bantha fodder. You're welcome.
Yeah, bantha poodoo.
Yep. But no, it doesn't bother me at this point. We see Wrecker pick up 2 or 3 clone troopers and throw them, off of a ship, and it's, simple, and they knock them down like it's crazy. But at this point, I forget, there was something that you asked a couple weeks ago, and you said, does it bother you that, like, when it comes to Star Wars? And it was pretty much the same answer, and it was no, because at this point it's it fits with the Star Wars universe.
Very true. Yeah, I think you said something about Star Wars I think Linda was asking about why some guys with helmets can take head blows and some can't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because Star Wars is never consistent. Yeah, so I'm glad to hear you guys say that, because I've been doing this as a joke, because you guys know clones, stormtroopers, my jam. And I didn't have a problem with the chase scene either. It's still fun. It's still done well. The art, we've talked about this. The animation in this show is just beautiful. The sound design, oh my God. Someone said Ben Burtt was a god. I don't know if I'd go that far, but wow. And I just got a kick out of it. So really quick, there's John. Good to see you, John. And that's a cool name too. I like that one, the Gaming Lizard. Oh man, let's see here. Coming on down. Okay, so Disney Plus would put all the episodes. You know what? Let's talk about that real fast before we move on. So Gaming Lizard says, I wish Disney Plus would put out all the episodes at one time. And I remember when Mandalorian was coming out, I remember joking with my buddy. I said, if there's less than 30, I'm watching these all in one night. And they've been piecemealing. Bailey, over to you. Do you prefer them to just dump them all on us at once, or go this piecemeal thing they're doing?
That's kind of difficult to say, because it's like, when we're given everything all at once, we're going to blow through it. And then you kind of have this moment of, when you're done, like, what do I do with my life now type thing. Where
Right.
If you're forced to wait, you're able to kind of enjoy the experience a little longer. So I guess I would be on the camp of, I'm okay with it being one at a time, because otherwise I would be watching this show in like a day or two, and then I would be without new Star Wars content for several months. And, so I'm okay with it. I'm good with it. I guess it just depends on what the kind of watcher that you are. I'm the same way with books. There are people who read books lightning fast, and I like to savor it, and I take my time with it, because I don't want to blow through it. I want to enjoy the ride. So I think it really just depends on how you like your entertainment. But for me, I like to savor it, so I'm okay with it one at a time. Because if it's like too much, like, my goodness, like, if they were to release all of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show or just one, that's a lot of new content to digest, and I think it would be overwhelming. So I'm okay with the week by week thing.
Brandon, thoughts on that?
I 100% agree. If it did drop all at once, yes, I would watch it all at once. I would sit there in my, in shorts and a t-shirt, and, sit there with junk food and watch the whole thing. Like, I'd wake up super early in the morning and then watch it until I probably should go to bed, but I'm going to keep watching it. But at the same time, it allows for you to appreciate it. And when it's weekly like this, the chances of me watching it and going back and catching stuff, watching it multiple times, because I have to wait a week, I think it helps the show, and it builds up this anticipation. It's really good marketing on their part, because then people do what we're doing, and they talk about it, and they theorize, and they, get other people interested. Whereas if you sat there and watched it all at one time, would you be as inclined to talk about it with friends? Like, because the start and the finish of it and everything that happened in between. You don't have that time to, think of the different connections. And, like, yeah, I know when it comes to speculation, people get upset because, sometimes it's like, well, I wanted this to happen, but it didn't. But I feel like it's so much better to have it weekly. And that's how TV shows were. They had it, it was the same same time, same day of the week. And that's, my mom would talk about sitting down and watching a show every night or every week at the same time with her family, and they'd all sit down and watch it. And I feel like that is, what's happening with these shows, and I actually do appreciate it.
I agree with you guys. I know what I want, but I know what I would appreciate more. And this is that. And with this way, you made a good point, Brandon. Would we have, if they had dumped them all when they first came out, would we still be talking about this 10 weeks later? No. But look at us. You're still excited, still into it. And to keep it a little bit more real, this is, you said marketing as well. It's a very good point. They're like crack dealers. They get you on the comeback. And it's a good way to keep you interested in Disney Plus and keep that subscription going. So I'm glad that they're doing it this way too. As collecting Star Wars.
Steve-O.
Yeah. Steve-O. Oh, that's right. Steve-O. I do know that. Okay. Good to see you, Steve-O. Let's see here. David agreed with us on that too. Yeah. And there you go. That's a good, look at all of the YouTube content that comes out, not just us. By the way, Breakdown's not really an original name. Sorry about that, guys. I should have thought that through because everybody calls it that, but ours is cooler. Yeah. And I agree with Brandon. We appreciate it more weekly. And yeah, there you go. Like you said, Bailey, having breaks is okay. It's just the months of waiting that gets me. Yeah. But, hey, I think, and this is going to sound a little fatalistic for guys like me who are starting to, I'm in my 50s and they're talking about stuff that's supposed to be coming out like when I'm in my 60s. So I'm starting to run out of time here. So if they could push that a little quicker. I see you up there snickering, Brandon. I see you, dog. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I give you guys a hard time because you're so young, but this is your chance to get back at me. You're going to get decades more of Star Wars than I will. You'll have to, I don't know, bring it on a thumb drive when you come up later too. So, okay. So we get the chase. Everybody agrees that it was pretty predictable. Yeah. See, thank you, John. One of my people. Some of us are going to be in our 60s and 70s by the time some of this crap comes out. So I'm still going to be watching it, though. I'm just going to tell you that right now. The Gilster, there's a good uncle. He's still here listening and coloring with his nieces. Good for you, man. Yeah. My niece is right down the street, too. I get a kick out of seeing her. So we get the chase through the canyon that, we all agree, just great. A little predictable because we know Hera can't die. We know her mother doesn't get out of this because we've never seen her before. And they finally get the turbo tank stopped, take it over, drag out Rampart and Orn Free Ta. The heavy dude is with him. And then we get what I think is one of the most powerful scenes in an episode of The Bad Batch we've seen so far. Bailey, I'd love for you to talk to me about what's going on here and what you thought of that.
Oh, I really enjoyed this part because it reminded me so much of Jedi philosophy when it comes to killing and not killing. So basically what's happening here is Sham is like wanting to basically shoot the senator for, wow, like you're really going to arrest my daughter and possibly have her executed and you're going to do this to a child and, you're such a terrible guy. Like he just kind of like loses it a little bit. Like, I'm trying to work with you here and yet you're still going to do this to my kids. So he's about ready to turn the gun and the Empire is not going to, they're like, he's the one holding the gun. So the Empire didn't really have his back either. But it was Hera's mom that was like, you know what? Yeah, he's a bad guy. But you know what? And he will get his end, but it's not going to be with us. So they decided to go down a more pacifist route, and I loved it because, again, that's exactly how the Jedi function is. They do not kill. They don't. Like, they are going to do everything they can to not do that, even if they truly believe that, someone, he probably does deserve to get shot, but you know what? I'm not going to be the one to do it. So I thought it was great that they went down this route because, especially like when since this is kind of like a kids show too, it's nice to show that mercy and to be like, you know what, that's not how we solve all our problems is by shooting somebody because we're upset.
Absolutely. Brandon, I'm going to go to you in a second, but I just want to point out a couple of things real fast. John says we don't got to worry about it because they will perfected clones and transplanting parts. Yeah, good, because I'm going to need a liver pretty soon here, John. And Steve-O says he's eating broccoli and drinking more water so he can live to see all the Star Wars. I might need to go down that route, just so you know. And then, of course, the ultimate JT Indy's still cracking that whip at 80. We'll be fine. So, okay, cool. I'm a little bit more heartened about my ability to see Star Wars into the future. So, even though I'm an old guy. But Brandon, once again, very powerful scene here that ended with a shocker. What did you think of this and how they did it?
I thought that two of the better moments, you know, despite everything that has been in this episode, have actually been with Hera's mom. And it was earlier. She basically, I've got the quote here, and it's she's talking about, and if it's the Empire's version of peace is not the one we can accept, then what? And then there was this where it's basically the same idea as the Echo with the Senator, and it's very much live to fight another day type mindset. And seeing the way that Hera is, where she's like, hey, we can, like, this isn't the time to do this. We need to get out of here to live to fight another day. We can't get hung up on this stuff. You see where she gets those beliefs from. And I really did like that with this episode.
I thought it was a powerful emotional moment that lent a lot of weight to what Bailey said is a kid show. And I liked that. And it also showed, because at first I was like, what the heck is Rampart doing? Because he's like, just surrender to them. I'm like, this idiot's a coward. Turns out he's pretty freaking smart, Brandon, because the next thing we get is, where does Orn Frita go?
He didn't die.
What?
He didn't die. So he gets shot. They've got
in the head.
They've got Crosshair up in the what, Eagle's Nest or whatever they call it. Yeah. And he shoots him, but you'll notice he says, arrest these traitors for the attempted assassination of Orn Frita. And then when he's being carted away, you see his hands move. He didn't die.
I didn't catch that. Oh,
yeah. Crosshair shot and hit one of the sides of his head to where it wouldn't kill him. Yep. Oh. So they had that completely planned.
So I was going to ask you that, because they said arrest him for the attempted assassination. I'm like, attempted? He did, but he's not dead.
Nope.
Oh. Okay. Bailey, did you notice that too? Or am I...
Nope. I was just like, oh, well, there you go.
All right. So going back to that arc I was just talking about, where I was like, what the heck is Rampart doing? Turns out he's really smart. Did that kind of catch you off guard too? Or did you see that kind of coming?
Yeah.
Bailey.
Oh, my bad.
Or Brandon. Yeah, either one. Bailey's got a mouthful of water now, so I want to hear her talk.
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
The question was, I thought Rampart was an idiot at first. It was just like, well, we'll just surrender and hope for the best. Yeah, remember? But turns out he had a plan the whole time. And that whole thing might have been a setup now that you look back at it. Did that catch you off guard, or did you see that coming?
It did, because I was on the same boat as you, where I was like, wow, what a coward, wow, some mighty leader you are, just like giving up so quickly. But no, that was the one thing that I could not predict. So I thought it was good. I thought it was a good move.
Okay, well, and let's stick with you, Bailey, because I think you were the most vocal of the fact that a few episodes ago now we turned Crosshair here into crispy chicken version. But he doesn't. I mean, other than having a really cool scar, he doesn't seem any worse for the wear. Are you cool with that?
I guess it's sci-fi. Bacta must be just something especially magical, and I guess for the sake of plot armor and whatever they have planned, they need to have Crosshair functioning. So I was like, oh, all right, he's good. I just get a kick out of the fact that Hera and Kanan can bond over the fact that this man has tried to shoot them. At one point, like they have both been shot at by a prick with a toothpick. So,
oh, it rhymes. That was good, Bailey.
Yeah, there you go. But that I guess we need Crosshair. So, yeah. It is with Star Wars. Some things you just have to just suspend, and that's going to be one of them, I suppose. Yeah,
I agree. John makes a good point. It was a clever setup to discredit Syndulla, and I had a lot more. That's why I asked you that question earlier, Brandon. I could see that kind of in the back of your head too. I've got a lot more respect for the character of Rampart now, because he's clearly as conniving as everybody else that's high up in the Empire. You agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why he was put in charge of the elite squad. Like, he's going to do what he has to do, and Tarkin can trust it. We don't know anything about the character, but obviously Tarkin can trust him to come in and fill in his shoes, basically, while Tarkin is starting to deal with the Death Star.
Oh, yeah, fair enough, because he's still arguing with Krennic, as far as we know. Steve-O mentioned something here. Brandon, right back to you. You mentioned that novel. You've read that.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Orn Free Taw's in that novel?
Yeah, and he even survives through that novel. So he's still alive.
He can't die.
In that part of, in that part of it. I'm trying to remember what happens, but there are Star Destroyers that are crashing, and Vader and Palpatine basically call him like a rat on a sinking ship, because they're able to flee, but he's like, you're nothing more than a rat on a sinking ship, because he's just, there. But yeah, so that's
fair enough.
Part of the reason why I knew he didn't die, there were a couple people that I saw tweet, and I don't usually on Twitter talk about Bad Batch within the couple days that it comes out, because I know like spoilers and stuff like that, and I would hate to ruin something for somebody. But when I see like somebody did a poll, and they were just like, about Orn Free Taw's assassination, I was like, he didn't die. Like, so yeah.
Well, I am glad we have you on this show, because I thought he was dead. Bailey thought he was dead. Not only did you catch that he wasn't, but you knew he was in a book later too. So it's a golf clap for Brandon. Good job, my brother. Good job, sir. That's very good. Yeah. Bailey, quick yes or no. Is Orn Free Taw going to be back next week?
I have a pretty. I don't think we're going to be leaving Ryloth. I think we're not done there yet, so probably.
Oh. Brandon?
Yeah, I think we'll see him again, because, like I said, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I'm shocked to hear that out of you two. I'm going to say that's the last week. I think that was the setup for Rebels. That's the episode we get. We don't go back to Ryloth. That's what I think. Nope. You guys think I'm wrong, huh? Oh! Maybe we'll put a gentleman's bet on this, Brandon.
Oh.
And if you lose, you don't have to send me anything. If I lose, anyway. And then Brandon, back to you. You seem to know a little bit about the biology. He's a 3-leku Twi'lek. Is that so? That's the thing too.
Oh, I guess I didn't know that. I didn't, because usually they've like.
I guess they normally just have 2, right?
They've got, and then the male and female are different, but I just figured it was because he was heavy that his looked different. But geez, now I'm going to be looking at.
Well, while you look that up, I just want you to know that David is on y'all's side and hopes I'm wrong. Left Coast is also hoping I'm wrong. It's a 2-episode arc for sure. I'm going out on a limb. Psh, we're out of there. We're not going. That's it for Ryloth. So Brandon's going to look up the biology really fast and tell us the difference if he can figure it out. I love that's his thinking face, Bailey. Isn't that cool? There's Brandon's thinking face.
Don't do that.
Brandon,
Don't do that. Why would you do that?
because I love you so much. Oh, you know what? Whoops. David says males have ears, but females don't. I think the females do, don't they? They just have that thing that goes over them.
They're little cones. If you'll notice, Hera's mom and Hera,
right?
They're different.
Right, they're little cones, but I thought that was part of their headdress. That's not part of the headdress. Wow, you know,
I still don't know.
I tell you right now, Brandon's got some Twi'lek homework to do tonight. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to need a full biology report, 4 pages, single-spaced APA style by the time you're done, sir.
Orn Free Taw actually has 4 of them.
Oh, wow!
What a freak!
At least that's what it says in the canon section of Wikipedia for Leku.
Oh, and Bailey, I'm sure you'll be happy to find this out. Females have bumps.
You know what? In that species, it seems like you know how like in the animal kingdom, how the males look better than the females. Well, with the Twi'leks, it's the reverse. It looks like so whatever. they seem to be better looking. So that's fine. I'll deal with the cones.
Okay. I will tell you, that's how you can tell when we've gotten way off track. We're looking at Twi'lek biology and discussing female bumps and cones.
Yeah, no, I would have never predicted.
Right. I thought you guys got off track last week. I got to get this thing back on the rails here.
I just raised my hand. I'm
Ready
back
to go.
in school. While males had ears with lobes, females have cone-shaped hearing organs.
Oh.
So those little are like vibration sensing things.
Oh, originally females were going to have ears, but they goofed from the headdress Ula wore. Ula was the dancer from, you guys know who Ula is. Okay. Later they made females without ears. There you go. So there's a reason for everything. Look at that. That makes sense. So let's just do this. Left Coast, as I understand it, males don't automatically have sharp teeth because the Leku on the Twi'leks are so susceptible to injury and they're pretty important. Some of them will file their teeth, Brandon or Bailey, correct me if I'm wrong, to make themselves look more formidable, but they don't naturally come like that. Yeah, see, David says, you guys, have you heard that, or am I crazy? Do you agree with me on that?
I mean, it would make
That was something I missed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
alien biology is probably my weakest thing here when it comes to the universe.
Teeth.
Well, we're doing Alien Biology 101 for the Twi'leks right now. Yeah, see, David, those males will sharpen them. They don't just come that way. John says you might want to check IMDb about next week. Next episode is Rescue on Ryloth. So we don't normally do that, but since we were predicting it, I threw that up there because I thought about it for a second, Brandon. But it's out there. So I might be wrong. We'll see. Maybe.
I might be wrong. All the evidence coming in, I might be wrong.
Well, Bailey, former lieutenant, always have to be right about everything. Ask your dad. Paul is correct. I'm right about something, finally.
The most obscure information, too.
I know. I don't know where I get some of this stuff. It's in my head. But anyway, we don't normally do episode spoilers. We won't do them again, but that was a very poignant, applicable for that moment. Okay, so I apologize if anybody's upset about that. We don't normally do that here. What you got, Brandon? Is that it?
No, I said you're all good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just like I said, I just wanted a 4-page APA style single space, but whatever. You can just give me that info. It's fine. Yeah. Okay, so at the end of the episode, they send Hera off on the speeder, and they take Cham prisoner, and Orn Fritas being carried out, and we're kind of done with the episode at that much. What's his name? Rampart says, "Hey, go find the kid." What do you guys think about it? The ending was a little how they ended that. I'll just go with this. Bailey, tell me what you thought about how they ended that episode with Hera just kind of off on her own there with Chopper.
Oh, that was, to me, just kind of more of a dead giveaway that we're not done here yet with the planet, that we're definitely going to get a follow-up of something. And just knowing, Rebels and the fact that we know that something has happened to Hera's mom, I just know we're going to definitely... something's going to happen to Mom, I think, next episode, following the tradition of Star Wars. If you are a mother or a motherly figure in Star Wars, you are so dead. So I just figured, with Hera running off, I think we're going to definitely get more Hera backstory in the next one. And it's definitely going to build upon the person she becomes later down the road. So yeah, I kind of knew right away that we're not done there yet when it comes to Hera and her family.
Brandon, what do you think about how they kind of wrapped it up, but not really? It was just kind of like they threw some straws on the floor at the end of that one. Does that make sense to you? What do you think of that?
I was shocked. I honestly, it was so abrupt. And I was like, oh my God, the episode's over, because I was so focused in. And then it just we'll have to hunt down the girl. And it was the fanfare played, and, executive produced by Dave Filoni. I was like, no.
Right, yeah.
I have to wait a week. But no, that immediately made me feel like we're going to go back there next week, because I honestly feel like we will see Hera's mom die in this series.
Oh, Brandon with the hot take prediction. Good for you. Okay.
Bailey said it too.
I said
Kinda.
You did. Yeah. Well, you just said it longer.
Yeah, I mean, for Star Wars tradition, that's
Yes.
what's happening.
Yeah. Well, what I meant by that, this is what you call a retrograde save, by the way, in the industry, is that Brandon agreed with you, Bailey. And so I wanted to point that out, that he went out on a limb, and you guys are teaming up on me again. So I'm looking at y'all's faces and I'm getting this, I don't believe a word you're saying, Taylor. You have no idea what you're talking about. Look on you. So yeah. Bad Batch will eventually turn into a show that should have been called Rebels Rising.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And then John, next week's going to bring the hurt. Yeah. So the more we talk about this, the more I think I'm going to lose this gentleman's bet, Brandon, with you and Bailey. We'll talk about what we can bet on that later. We'll probably go back to Ryloth, at least for a little while next episode. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Bailey, we're going to start with you. This episode only, 1 to 10. Where are you at, ma'am?
I think I'm going to have to go with a 9 again. Just because, again, you're going to notice a pattern here, guys. The one where the Bad Batch is in it, bare minimum, and they're talking about things that play a bigger role down the road, that's what's going to earn that high rating for me. So I'm going to say a 9. It had my attention the whole way through. I love seeing Hera because I enjoy Rebels too. And the Bad Batch was in it, bare minimum. So I'm sorry. It's just like, it is true. Like, maybe we should have had a series where we just see these different. Anyhow, it's a 9 for me.
Fair enough.
They don't feel well in Star Wars, and that's a problem, JT.
There you go. Yeah. So we could do a whole episode on Bailey's thoughts on other. Brandon, don't put it down yet. I'm going to get to you, brother. I promise I'm going to get to you. And John had said it earlier, this show should have just been called some sort of generic Star Wars, and we just go around to a bunch of different things because that's kind of what they're doing with the Bad Batch here. But before we get to Brandon over there, just stroking his picture, I would love to hear, for those of you that are in chat right now, we would love to hear what your number is, 1 to 10. If you could throw that in there, and if maybe you want to throw a sentence on why you think that, but if not, just to get an idea of where everybody else was, because a lot of times we get some pretty wide, varied answers on this, but a lot of times we're all at the same level. So, Brandon, before the glass on that gets too steamed up, I'm going to head over to you. Where are you at number-wise, 1 to 10, brother?
And I'm gonna give it 2 ratings because for an episode of the Bad Batch, I think it's like a 6.
Okay.
Because it was a weapon supply. For an episode of anything Star Wars, it was a 9.5.
Okay.
And that anything Star Wars, like animated Star Wars, it was almost perfect. Like, as someone who loves the animated stuff and Rebels and those characters, I could think of very few things that would make it better.
You know what? I like the way you put that, Brandon, because I'm watching this and I'm like, other than the fact that Crosshair is here, who ostensibly isn't even part of the Bad Batch anymore, why the heck is this part of the Bad Batch series? And someone mentioned it earlier. I thought I'd clicked on the wrong series or something. So as far as the Bad Batch is concerned, they show up for a minute. Omega says, "You're a weird little girl," and then we're done. It's like a 3 or a 4. I mean, the Bad Batch isn't even it. A Star Wars episode, 9. Absolutely. And because this is the hilarious part, this is what I asked for. This is what I wanted to see. Mm-hmm. The Empire taking over, how they got to where they are, the slow transition of the vehicles and the uniforms, the calculating way that they manipulated systems into being on their side and things like that. And we got a whole bunch of that. And we got some leaders into some other TV shows. So you guys are absolutely right. Great episode, but not an episode of the Bad Batch, right? I think that's fair to say. It's not going to break Bailey's heart. Okay, let's get down here. So I already showed you JT's comment. He agrees with you. Yeah, if you're a woman or a mother, stand by in this.
Oh, you are so screwed.
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll talk about that in a minute. It'll be interesting to see if they tie those together. If it's Crosshair that ends up killing the mother. Wow, Left Coast, 5 out of 10. Okay, so see, that's going to be an interesting question. 5 out of 10 for a Bad Batch episode, or 5 out of 10 for a episode of Star Wars something, because that's the problem we're running into. Gilster, 8.5. I think that's reasonable. And I agree with Bailey. This is the first episode I ever gave a 9. Nice, David. It was fun to watch for sure. And, the Rampart thing. 8. I still want more pew pew bang bang. Linda, I'm with, you know what? I want to fly some ships around. I want, battles and stuff like that. I agree with you, but still an 8. And then, of course, John agrees with David. JT, 8 out of 10. Not bad. Look at John. 9 out of 10. Best since the first movie episode. He had mentioned that earlier, actually. And I agree. Let's see what we got here. Hodges. Hauser was cool. Good setup with the attempted assassination. Yeah, no doubt. Not as much Bad Batch as I expected, but good Hera Omega friendship. I'd say 7580. Yeah, that's a very good way to put that setup. Steve-O, 7, but I think it will get higher once I see part 2. Now everybody's just going to rub it in when I'm wrong next week. Oh, let's see what we got out here. David, I can't go off enough on how good this episode was. Fair enough. Yeah. See, John. Yeah, as a Bad Batch episode, it's like a 2 because they weren't in it. Yeah, but as a Star Wars episode, it's a 9 for sure. John, good comparison on Imperial control with Ryloth versus. Yeah, we touched on earlier. Bailey, I think you mentioned that the comparison and contrast between the way the senators are working, I think, was really good. And Lefko says this episode was made for the 20 to 30 somethings. I would kind of agree with that, but there was a lot of stuff in there for us older guys too, I think. But, that's what we're here for. He was the one that gave it the lowest number as well. And John, I do agree with you. More space battles equals good. Yeah. But, I grew up, my generation grew up on them attacking and blowing up the Death Star and TIE fighters chasing everybody all over the place. So we're a little warped with that. All right. So a fun episode. And an interesting precursor to the Rebels show for sure, right, guys?
Yes.
All right. Bailey, we're going to start with you, ma'am. We've talked about a lot of good things that happened this episode.
Why are you laughing?
We're good.
Yeah, because he wants to pick up his picture. He's going to tell us what's good about this episode.
I'm this close to grabbing my Luminara autograph card, even though she has nothing to do with this. I'm just like, I don't think I've ever done that before. But anyway,
maybe you need to learn. Maybe I'll just get my Grogu and just the Mandalorian show is my favorite. Yeah, no, it is not. I don't have any autographs, by the way, you guys. Believe it or not, none. I have 0.
Oh, I thought the one in the background was.
Nothing's autographed.
Oh.
Yeah. Actually, the only autograph I have, Bailey, is the only non-Star Wars thing in here. You saw at the 49ers Summit has Joe Montana's signature.
Right.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
but
good.
What they do good? Yes. Let's get back.
I really just enjoyed just the callbacks to both, like with the vehicles and the sound design. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed seeing Hera and just knowing this is going to be a precursor to Rebels. I liked it. This was, as I've said before, this was an episode where the events that I would be most interested in seeing that doesn't have anything to do with the Bad Batch, that's what happened in this episode. We saw a story that I know is going to play a larger role in the grand scheme of things, and it was entertaining from start to finish. I think the pacing was really well. I don't think it was a slow episode by any means, even though, like, when you think about it, there wasn't, the action was kind of like towards the end, but it wasn't a slow episode. It was good. It had my attention the whole way, and I'm sure it's just going to bleed into a good part 2. So I think they did really well here with the story. And I guess I can kind of see what John is saying is if you aren't as familiar with Rebels and whatnot, I can see how that would not be as enjoyable because you're like, well, I don't know who any of these people are, and I get it. But for me, that was the good because it's like it's stuff that I am familiar with and care about. So I think they did a good job there giving us a story that those of us who enjoy the animated stuff get to see later on.
Agree. Really quick before we do, Brandon, look at John with the super flex over here. I can't even count the number of autographed 8x10s on the walls here. I've been collecting them for 35 years. Show off. Brandon, over to you, brother. What did they do good this episode, sir?
I was laughing because I think they did everything really well. Like, we have talked about it where the Bad Batch is becoming everything else happening around the Bad Batch is what is interesting. And if they're going to take what's good about it and run with it, cool. If the Bad Batch pops in and does little things, all right. Yeah. And Left Coast Graphics with the lower score. At first I thought that was a dig at the 20 to 30 somethings, but it's totally like that's the age group that we watched the animation stuff. We grew up with the prequels. There were fewer references and Easter eggs for original trilogy stuff, and it's because these planets have been seen heavily in the animation and in the Clone Wars. So I absolutely see where that rating would come from. But as someone who sat here and stroked a picture of,
hey, you used that word, I didn't.
I love Hera. I was gonna try to dig out the Black Series figure and have it like on my shoulder the whole time, but it would have caused a figure avalanche, and it was just too much. But I can see where people would be upset with this episode because it was not focused on the Bad Batch. Right. In the grand scheme of things, they're like, well, what does this really have to do with the Bad Batch? That's where I think the next episode comes in. And I think that's something that they did really well, is they took something and they made it, let's really develop the story around the Bad Batch and then figure out how they're going to work the Bad Batch in it. And I honestly think there are going to be some really emotional moments this next episode that are the Bad Batch will have to respond to those events. So I think that we will see some more from the Bad Batch in this next episode, because it's not that hard to not have as much of the Bad Batch as we had in this episode, right?
Yeah, Bailey said it 100 times, and I agree. I like the Bad Batch, but I like this spin-off within a spin-off show, I guess. And John makes a good point. If you'd never watched the Clone Wars or Rebels, none of this would still be fun, but it wouldn't be as, what's the word? It wouldn't hit you as hard, because we know the future on all these characters. Luckily, I've seen just enough of both to be able to feel about it the same way you guys do. So, and you know what, Steve-O, that was very well. Both of you, actually, Bailey, you too. The way you guys put that, I think, is incredibly accurate. I don't think Left Coast was making a dig at the 20 to 30s. This was aimed at that group, like you guys, that grew up as the prequels and the animation were coming out, and this is right up your alley, even though we still like it. So that was very well put, you guys. I appreciate it. Bailey, let's head back over to you. If you had to pick one thing that they could have improved upon in this episode, what would it be?
Oh God.
If anything.
I honestly can't think of anything. I can't. And I think this is the first time I have said that where I literally, yeah. So, no complaints on my department. I just hope that we're going to build on this. I just hope we keep building on it, that there is a part 2, which it sounds like there is, but still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, David points out, I love seeing young Hera. She was done so well, and Chopper's always great. Why can't they do stories, actual Bad Batch stuff? Just kidding. See, and here we go. We're already at an hour and 36 minutes. That's another 3-hour conversation. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, David, this is exactly what Brandon and I were trying to say last week. Is like, they could very well be doing everything good that we have seen from this episode in terms of, like Hera's mom. She's in it, and this is our first time seeing her, but we already care about her given what she's said and done and the role that she plays, her relationships with the characters. It is possible. So that's exactly what we're saying, is they're just not doing that with the Bad Batch themselves, but they can do it. So
yeah, I don't like it when Paul gets that smile.
Brandon,
he knows he knows my buttons. So
actually, Bailey, I'm going to give you a break, and I'm going to push one of Brandon's buttons here. Would it be fair to say if there were Ewoks in this episode, we'd be using smelling salts to bring Brandon? Yeah, that'd be it. Today we have a blank square where Brandon is supposed to be, because he's still in a Star Wars induced coma.
We would bring that whole Ewok village back there and bring it back.
Exactly. Wear it on his head as a hat today. But Brandon, I appreciate you being a good sport, man. I always give you a hard time. This episode, if there was one thing you could have improved upon, what would you have liked to have seen?
It's really, really hard, and it almost sounds ungrateful, but a little bit of the action in the canyon stuff, like it was a very, like point A, point B type predictable chase. It would have been cool to see a little bit more resistance on the Empire's part. It would have been cool to see Crosshair utilized and not have them realize that he's even there. But and that's very nitpicky, because from the start to the finish of it, I was glued to the screen. I enjoyed it so much. So it is very, very hard. I mean, 9.5 out of 10, and
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Brandon, you just said something that sparked a thought in what's left of my pickled rum brain up here. You said, I wish that the Empire had provided more resistance, and something just dawned on me. We know Rampart is scheming, scamming, got everything going on in the background. Bailey, start with you. What do you think the chances are that he actually told those troopers, let them win so that we can have Crosshair do this? I just thought of that. Do you think that was going on in the background? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because that's a tactic we've seen many times in Star Wars. Like even in Episode 6, where Vader's like, these rebels are down on that moon down there, and Palpatine's like, yeah, I know, I brought them there. Like, that's what I want. And we saw that many times in the Clone Wars and with Rebels, is sometimes that's what they do. They're like, yeah, we're going to fool them. We're going to deceive them, think they have the upper hand, but really, they don't. So I never really thought about it until now, so I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, it makes sense why they would do that.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines from A New Hope, Grand Moff Tarkin, I'm taking an awful risk here, Vader. This had better work. Because they let him go. Brandon, am I nuts? Are Bailey and I crazy? Or do you think that's a distinct possibility that he had that thing, he was pulling the strings behind them?
Yeah, that's good. And now that you mentioned that, it would have been, what if the people couldn't give as good of a fight to the Empire, so Crosshair actually sniped off some of the
That's right, yeah. What we thought was the Syndulla family being a really good aim. Crosshair's like, all right, paintballers, let's do this the right way. That's a A-Team movie reference. But anyway, that's a good point too, Brandon. I didn't even think about that. John is he's got some good things in the comments here as well. I think they could have gone a bit more into the change Cham Syndulla is seeing between the Republic and the clones and being stormtroopers. And also he sees the Empire forming and how this changes him from a politician as a leader. And I will tell you, this is a victim of these episodes are only 25 minutes long.
Exactly.
Because I think in the back of their head, they're like, man, I would really like to expound on this change. But for some strange reason, they're only making them 25 minutes long. So I think they did as much as they could within that episode. But John does make a point. Yeah. And see, there you go. Poor Cham is in such a no-win situation. JT, that's his way of apologizing, Brandon. Psst, he loves Ewoks too. Look at that. Everybody's coming on to Brandon. I love some Ewoks.
If I had something to cheers.
Yeah, oh wow, look at you. All I got is this handy right now. Cheers. It just came in the mail. My buddy had to send it to me. Matt, good to see you, brother. Thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate that. And Bailey, actually a good tactic to let the rebels feel hope and then take it away, because that really, it expounds on what you were just talking about. It really rips the soul out of a populace and they just go with what they, So yeah, I don't disagree with you in any fashion, guys. I think that might be what they were doing. And I'm glad you sparked that in my brain, Brandon. We're gonna answer this question really fast and then we'll move on. Whoops. Gilster, odds adult Omega will appear in Book of Boba Fett. Bailey, you first. And would you want to see that? That's a better question.
It's hard to say because I feel like I can't answer that until I know how the show ends, or if there is an end to it, or if it's going to continue. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that yet. I don't have the information I need, so I don't know. It depends on what they decide to do with her.
Brandon?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule anything out. I feel like I would like it more if we saw a young Boba Fett in this than an older Omega. It feels wrong saying it as Omega.
It does now, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's Omega.
Omega.
What has this done to me? I'm gonna pronounce that word wrong at some point, and somebody's just gonna look at me like, "What the hell?"
You're not a Kiwi, Brandon. What the
yeah, but yeah, I don't know because it would. I don't know if it would have the same impact, as sometimes it's fun to see live action characters be put into animation. But I feel like it's harder to pull characters from animation and put it into live action. So you'd have to find a very good actress that fits very well to be in that role.
Right. And then you also have to keep in mind, like with live action, this is like that appeals to a wider audience. And if you're someone who's just a casual Star Wars fan and you're going to be looking at her and be like, well, who is that? Like, and I'm sure that's what people felt in The Mandalorian when they're seeing like Bo-Katan and Ahsoka. They're like, I don't know who these people are, but okay. So I think that plays a role in it too, is it is difficult to bring a character from animation to live action because it has to be assumed that not everyone is going to watch these animated stuff.
Right. Well, and I've admitted this to you guys before. I might have caught some of these, but I never would have watched all of these and paid as close attention as I do had it not been for this show. So if this Omega girl showed up in the Book of Boba Fett, which I definitely will watch, like the Kenobi and the Andor series, I might have been a little confused. Like, wait a minute, isn't that little kid from the cartoon? So, yeah. And it's kind of funny because it's like seems like it's 50-50 in the chat on that because John's like, I don't think there's any more Omega after that. Matt's like, I don't think so either. But JT's like, you know what though, Gilster, I like your thinking. And then of course, where did he go? Did I lose it? Oh yeah, Gilster. No, yeah, you spelled it wrong. There's 2 E's in the middle because it's pronounced Omega. Oh man. Oh, Blitz. Good to see you. You're never late. We're always good to have you. And then Linda's like, maybe Omega and the Mandalorian first. I'm going with you guys. I'm going to need a little bit more information, but I'm leaning towards she's just going to be an animation character. Yeah, I see you nodding your head, Bailey. Brandon, is that what you would lean to if you had to pick? If I put a gun to your head and said pick now?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a metaphor, Bailey.
Nothing, guys. I'm just remembering how I was house sitting for them and they literally left me a loaded gun in the nightstand.
A girl's got to protect herself. Yeah.
I know, but I just thought it was great. Okay, there's food in the fridge and there's a loaded gun if you need it. Anyway, that's beside the point.
Well, I just want to point out too, Brandon, that I took care of Bailey. Okay, she didn't be here by herself.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And not only did I didn't just leave her a gun. I left her a hand cannon. I left her a Glock 45. It's got the biggest. Pull the bullet once and then call the cops and have them come pick up whatever's left. In case. So
that's what I thought of when you're like, if I were to put a gun to your head, I was just thinking like I literally slept next to a loaded gun for
yeah.
like.
Yeah. No, Matt. She didn't say unloaded. She said a loaded.
Loaded.
Yeah.
Like if I needed to take someone out.
Yeah, we left Bailey strapped up in here because I'm a baller and Brandon said I'm a shot caller. So yeah,
nothing was gonna happen to me while I was over there.
No, well, that's because mostly I'm not worried about Bailey. I'm worried about my stupid dog who's hearing impaired and sleeps so hard that you can pet him for 5 minutes and he won't wake up. I mean, he is no guard dog, Bailey, just so you know. But anyway, all right, you guys, we're gonna take a moment here and talk about what I like to talk about. You know how we do. You guys, those of you in the chat, those of you watching on the rewind, you've been watching the Bad Batch breakdown with Bailey and Brandon. We greatly appreciate you being here with us. We are obviously winding down on what was a great episode, even though the Bad Batch made a cameo in their own TV show, which is why most of us liked it so much, which is the odd thing here. But we're 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern every Saturday until this series, or at least the season, runs out. So thank you for joining us. Everybody that's been in the chat, you've been awesome. We have gotten some great comments, some great questions, and it's been a lot of fun. But with that, really quick, we're going to wind it down here. But in a 30-second time span, We've already kind of talked about this, and we rarely do these anymore, but I think I know what everybody's answer. I'm going to narrow this down on this one, okay? So, Bailey, we're going to you. Are we going back to Ryloth next episode, yes or no?
Yes.
How long are we going to spend on the episode by percentage in the 10s, 10, 20, 30, 40?
I think it might be the whole thing, 100%.
Wow. Brandon, back to Ryloth, yes or no?
Yep.
Percentage of the episode spent on Ryloth?
75 to 80.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to say, I think after the death of Hera's mom, I think we'll see Hera. I think the Bad Batch are going to take Hera somewhere that could be safe.
You know what? You guys are so good at this. This is why I have you both. And I'm not being facetious. I'm being serious. Just in the time that I made that prediction, you guys have said some great stuff. You know, to heck with what we know the next episode is called. That right there just sealed it for me, Brandon. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. I think Hera gets rescued by the Bad Batch, and that's why they set us up like this. That's you guys are brilliant, and I knew having you two on this show was a good thing to do, even though I was nervous and thought it was going to be a catastrophe. Just kidding. You guys know I love you both. With that, Bailey, any last thoughts? Anything you needed to say before I start winding us out of here, ma'am?
No, I think we've hit everything.
I heard something's going on in the background. That might be my dog.
I mean, it's kind of stormy outside, so maybe.
Yeah, really quick, Bailey. We just got the severe warning on the phone, so be careful. Brandon, before I wind us up out of here, Bailey and I start talking about Arizona weather. Any last thoughts? Anything we missed, sir?
Nope. I just, once again, I want to thank everybody who popped in and chatted, because, you know, obviously we bounce ideas off of each other. And even when we talk, we're like, oh, that's a good point. But when you guys do that in the chat, it gives us multiple perspectives. Mm-hmm. And it is nice to see people give different scores and to get their reasoning why, because then it makes me appreciate my viewpoint on the episode even more, because like then I realize how much they made this episode for someone like me. So
absolutely. Really quick, we'll go down the comments here. Dave agrees with us. You got to stay strapped, Bailey. You know, got to stay strapped. Look at John. I'm so proud for an old guy. He stayed awake for this one. Great stream. Thank you very much. Yeah. Matt, excellent. Art of War, Sun Tzu, stay strapped, but get clapped. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. John, thank you so much. It was great to have you here live and not just in the comments for once because you didn't fall asleep. I'm allowed to make fun of him. Gilster, thank you so much. Matt's with you guys. Hope we see some more Ryloth. That would not hurt my feelings any either at this point. John, good show. Thank you so much. Linda's going to run out with a quick prediction. Tech gets killed, Hera takes pilot position. Keep that on the back of your minds. We'll see what happens next episode. Hate I missed the beginning of the stream, but I wasn't leaving them idiots alone with booze and fireworks.
Good job.
That sounds like you made the right call there, right, Bailey?
I guess.
Yeah.
Can't relate.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you, Paul, Bailey, Brandon, all in the chat. Like I've said it before, I love the show. JT, and we love having you here. Mm-hmm. Am I right, you guys?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's awesome. And Matt, could be my dogs, yeah. David, thank you guys so much. I enjoy doing this show and interacting with you two and everybody in the chat as much as I do like watching the cartoons. So, and Steve-O, great show, great chat. Thank you. And of course, Left Coast, got to hit it. Hammerhead. He's been talking about him in the chat again. So, Blitz, always love watching the show, guys. Thank you so much. Love it. Look forward to seeing the rest on the rewind. You know what, Matt, I appreciate that. And Matt always leaves, like, as he goes through, he leaves comments on everything. So when I start getting the notifications, I have to wait and then wait for about an hour. And when he's done, then go back and respond to them. So
those are the best comments, so.
Oh, Matt, John, actually everybody, but some of you guys just, you know, we know about Josh. Some of these guys just really go off and leave a bunch of stuff for us, and it's really cool. But I think, you know, David, thank you for another great show. I like this better than the actual Bad Batch. Oh, I appreciate that. I'm dead serious. This was my first foray into live streaming and putting a show together. So that means more than you think it does to me. So with that, we're gonna end with this one because Linda's put it best. Fun. You guys are still having fun up there, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. That's what this is all about, fun and talking about Star Wars. And No. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not going to go out there. Don't tone it down, Matt.
No.
Lay them on. We love it, brother. So I have one complaint about last week's show. And Bailey, you didn't defend me. And Brandon was like, we're going to do the weird thumb thing on the stupid. And that hurt my feelings, you guys.
Okay, to be fair, you had a dog that was like panicking outside, so I was worried about the dog. I was worried about your baby. Okay.
You know what? Whatever you need to tell yourself on why you took Brandon's side over mine, but I just want you guys to know that I don't care how stupid or dumb you think it is. We're still going to end on tradition here because I love you both and we're going to do it anyway. So with that, we will see you on the next episode.